I always say that the path to greatness for all of us, for every single person on this planet, is suffering. Suffering through failure, through adversity, through tragedy, through setbacks, obstacles, mistakes. It is that journey of suffering that brings out our greatness.
I would characterize myself as a kid as a rebellious punk. I was sent to the principal's office more times than I can count. I was suspended for fighting, put in detention. My grades probably ranked in the bottom third for most of my years.
For Chatri's personality, he often got into trouble. Well, Chatri was naughty and cheerful, outgoing child. Chatri never studied. He gets C and B the most. He loves play sports. At the same time, he has a strong sense of justice. He couldn't ignore about meanness or bullying. So defend those people, he ended up fighting a lot.
So when I was around 8 or 9 years old, my father took me to Lumpini Stadium, which is the mecca of Muay Thai. And I remember it so well,
I walked in and thousands of screaming fans and the chanting, the atmosphere was electrifying. And I watched the fighters in the ring. They move with such grace and beauty and power. I remember being so mesmerized, and at that moment, just something inside of me was ignited, and I fell in love with Muay Thai.
Right away, I wanted to do Muay Thai, and I came home and told my mom, and my mom's this very conservative Japanese lady. She said, absolutely not.
I didn't support Chatri at all. I was a typical female that I don't like rafting, punching, kicking each other.
But eventually, when I was around 13 years old or so, my father took me to Sityodtong gym, which at the time was the #1 Muay Thai gym by far in the entire country. And here I was a kid, and I was looking, I was just in awe, and I was scared. Luckily for me, there was a senior trainer named Pitu, who's known as Papa Daurung now today. He came up to me and said, hey, little boy, come here, little boy, come here. And he effectively became my big brother. He took me under his wings and started teaching me Muay Thai under the careful guidance of our grandmaster, Sityodtong Senanan.
ผมเจอชาตรีครั้งแรกที่ค่ายมวยศรียอดธงตอนอายุประมาณ13 ปี13 ปีแล้วผมก็เป็นจับเป้าให้คนแรกเป็นเทรนเนอร์คนแรกชาตรีก็เป็นคนสนุกพูดตรงไปเป็นคนที่ชอบพูดตรงอย่าไปโกหกมีอะไรบอกกันตรงๆขอให้จริงใจต่อกัน
I remember my first day at Sityodtong. The heavy bags were filled with sand, packed tight, because our grandmaster Sityodtong Senanan really believed in strengthening the bones and the shin. So every kick, my shins, my feet, it was just unbelievable pain. And I remember thinking to myself, it was going to be impossible. I wanted to quit. It was the toughest training I'd ever experienced in my entire life.
But the crazy thing is, after the training, I never felt so alive. When I think back at my childhood, I just think about how magical it was. I lived a genuinely blessed childhood with incredible family life, a lot of love. We came from a well-to-do family. A few years before the Asian financial crisis, my father's business started to sour, and I remember distinctly how there was no money at home anymore, and my parents were fighting a lot, and eventually the Asian financial crisis hit. And then my father lost everything, our home, our car, and just overnight we became poor, and my father abandoned the family. And watching your mother cry out of hopelessness, not knowing how we were going to survive, a week, a month, or whatever. We just had no savings, nothing. And obviously it definitely, made me very sad, but it also gave me a lot of fire in my belly to fight. And I remember thinking to myself, I never want to see my mother ever cry?
I was so scared and worried. I couldn't sleep. Just imagine, it was the worst and most difficult moment of my family and in Thailand.
She thought the game plan should be for me to go to America, to go to Harvard and get a good job. And I remember when I got the acceptance letter, I just thought it was a fluke, and I thought, there's just no way they made a mistake. And then Mom, I said, how are we gonna pay for this?
Obviously, I believe in Chatri's capability and capacity. I don't want him to give up his opportunity. At the same time, we didn't have enough money for Harvard.
And my mom just said, Chatri, I believe in you. When you go there, you'll figure it out. And I remember the very first week when I got to Harvard, I had one suitcase with all my life's belongings, and I was always thinking, oh man, how am I gonna pay for school fees? I gotta go look for loans, I gotta go look for jobs. And so I taught Muay Thai. And so I created a spreadsheet, and I calculated the bare minimum that I could spend was $4. And so I would model out, and every single penny, literally every single penny I spent.
And if I beat that $4, let's say if I came in at $3.57, I would be ecstatic.
So that $4 number is, imprinted in my brain forever.
I've known Chatri for more than 2 decades, but more than just the length, I've known him very intensely because we've been in and out of each other's lives, our successes, failures. We've shared a lot of stories together. And so I've not only known him for a long time, but also known him really, really well. I met Chatri on the first day of business school when we were both walking across the student cafeteria, trays in our hand, and kind of this was a strange looking guy with spiky hair who was kind of really interesting character, and I wanted to meet him and became best friends since then. So Chatri, me, and another friend of ours used to be some of the poorest people in the class at business school. When we went to business school, we were really struggling to make our ends meet in terms of making sure that we could cover our expenses, including, for example, food. With a Thai restaurant in town, which was a hole in the wall called Roti, which was 3 or 4 kilometers away from school. So we'd get into this friend's really cheap hatchback, drive there, and then eat to our heart's content for a few dollars each.
In my second year at Harvard, my mom and I spoke, and it came to the point where she had nowhere to live.
I stayed Chatri's dorm for a while in his second year.
And so she came to live with me in my dorm room. I slept on the floor, and my mom slept on the bed.
He's a caring person and willing to sacrifice for everything.
It was just one of those things that, looking back on everything, how crazy it was, but during it was really scary because I was like, I didn't want to get expelled or I wouldn't get into trouble, in any way. And at the same time, my mom had nowhere else to go. Going through that suffering really taught me that I'm a fighter in life. It's one thing to fight in the ring, but to be a fighter in life. That's why I said I'm so grateful for my days in poverty, and I'm so grateful for the days of suffering. Without all those days of suffering for me, I would never have discovered so much.
I was so proud of Chatri when he graduated from Harvard. And I told him, this is the beginning of your real life. So be humble so that you can see well.
I got some good job offers, $150,000 job offers and $250,000 job offers. And one of my best friends, Soon Lu, approached me in our last year of business school and said, Chatri, hey, let's start a company together. And I said, that's so crazy. We have no money, we're poor. There's no way we're starting a company. He goes, fine, let's just work on a business plan together. So I said, okay, I'll work on a business plan with you. And I realized, you know what? I don't want to work for some big company. I want to do something that my soul's ignited for. And that's when I said, screw it. Let's just go to Silicon Valley. And when I told my mom this, my mom was initially very, very upset. And I said, Mom, you just got to believe, let's go. And we went, and because of the love of a mother, just incredible. Not only did she live in the dorm room with me, but when we went to Silicon Valley, Soon Lu and I rented a small apartment.
Eventually, he started internet software company at San Francisco. We are very poor. There's no furniture in the office. We cannot afford to buy bed, so we slept on a sleeping bag on the floor. And there are frozen food as our meal.
We hired our first 8 employees in that apartment, and they worked there. We ate frozen microwave meals, these small little ones. I think they were $1.50 a pop, and that's how we survived. So I could chase a crazy dream.
Luckily, we ended up with $40 million in venture capital, hired 150 employees, and eventually sold the company. And that's when I thought about my next move. I just naively thought, ever since we were poor, that if I'd made a lot of money, I would be able to take away the pain and suffering that my mother had endured. And that was my number one goal. And so I decided to go to Wall Street.
And so I went to Wall Street knowing, I could make a lot of money. But every day I knew that something was missing. There was just this sense of emptiness. I would say almost depression.
I know thinking of money never satisfied Chatri. He is a very philosophical person.
I had a $500 million hedge fund. I was quote unquote successful. And yet I felt completely empty inside. And that led to a series of many sleepless nights and made me think. And eventually I retired as a hedge fund manager and then decided to make martial arts my full-time life.
Actually, I thought Chatri was crazy leaving Wall Street, but I wasn't surprised about it. Whether I disagree with him or not, he always chooses his own path.
And so I decided to set up Evolve and later won championship. And it was very hard.
I always say that the path to greatness for all of us, for every single person on this planet, is suffering. Suffering through failure, through adversity, through tragedy, through setbacks, obstacles, mistakes. It is that journey of suffering that brings out our greatness.
The first 3 years of One Championship was a disaster. The feelings of fear, doubt, and insecurity in starting One Championship or Evolve, I had the same feelings, but I knew that I've had those emotions before and I've conquered them before and I've just moved on to doing what I love.
When I first started Muay Thai, I admit that I started it for shallow reasons. I wanted to impress the girls, I wanted to beat up the bully. It was all about physicality. I didn't really understand the depth of martial arts.
The deeper meaning of martial arts is through thousands of hours of training, through years and years of training, you inherit a warrior spirit to conquer adversity in life. You also inherit these incredible values of integrity or humility, or courage, discipline, or work ethic, because that's what martial arts teaches you.
Chatri is one of the most intense, passionate individuals I know. But behind all that passion and intensity lies a golden heart. Whenever I've had personal troubles or anything I needed help or support in, Chatri's always been there for me, as hopefully I have been for him. And it's just, his loyalty to his friends, his passion for martial arts, his integrity and hard work are just that's what makes the man. He's very real and very much an amazing human being inside the exterior that everybody sees.
When I first started Evolve in Singapore, the first person I called was Pitu. I wanted to repay his kindness. And so I went to Thailand and we had a meeting with our grandmaster, Sityodtong Senanan, and he thought it was a great opportunity for Pitu to move to Singapore. Here, Pitu was teaching me as a little kid. And now today I'm able to provide for him a good future. Because at the time when I started Evolve, he was mired in poverty. So when he came to Singapore, I was able to provide for him a good life.
ก็ผมดีใจมากที่ชาตรีให้โอกาสที่ได้มาและเป็นที่โชคดีที่สุด กว่าคนอื่นที่ได้มาที่ทำงานที่ผม
มาอยู่ที่นี่แล้วเขาบอกเขาก็มีความภูมิใจได้มาอยู่สุดยอดธงที่สิงคโปร์หลายคนเขาก็ดีใจที่มาเห็นครูเขาก็ดีใจทุกคน เพราะฉะนั้นครูก็บอกว่าต้องรวมถึงชาตรีด้วย คือไม่เอาเปรียบนักมวย เพราะฉะนั้นครูคิดว่าทั่วโลกนี้ไม่มีใครเข้าจ้างแบบนี้หรอกเพราะฉะนั้นครูก็ฝากขอบคุณชาตรีด้วยที่เป็นลูกศิษย์ครูคนหนึ่งแล้วมาสร้างชื่อเสียงสิทธิ์ยอดธงให้ทั่วโลกได้รู้ได้เรียนได้รู้แล้วก็เงินรางวัลนี้มากที่สุดในโลก
I wanted Evolve to be a positive place where people could genuinely inherit these incredible values, experiences. I wanted it to be a place where everyone could evolve into everything they wanted to be, whether it was students, instructors, fighters, world champions, staff, and a community outreach program.
I joined Evolve almost 11 years ago. Before Evolve, my life was quite difficult in Brazil. I have to sell like a newspaper, earn very low money. People laugh at me. My life changed so much after I joined Evolve. Financially, I can help my family. I did all the travel that I want to do, so I really appreciate everything I got at Evolve. I'd like to thank Chat for the opportunity to believe on me. I'm very thankful and very appreciative for him for the rest of my life.
หลังจากชกมวยมาก็ไม่มีเงินแล้วไม่มีเงินส่งวันรถแล้วช่วงนั้นก็คือคิดนานว่าชีวิตเราครอบครัวเราจะเป็นไงเราไม่ได้ชกมวยเราก็ไม่มีเงินแล้วสมัยนั้นครับที่ว่าแย่ครับก่อนที่ได้มาอยู่ที่นี่ครับทำงานก็ไปขายนมแพะตามงานกาชาดงานวัดทั่วๆไปครับเราก็คิดถึงลูกอนาคตลูกก่อนเราก็คิดว่าเราจะทำอะไรเขามีอนาคตที่ดีให้แม่เขาลำบากคือมีเงินให้เขาแล้วก็ยังคิดไม่ออกว่าเราจะทำอะไรให้เขาได้เราคิดว่ามันก็ชีวิตก็ลำบากครับพอดีอยู่มาไม่นานก็อีวอฟติดต่อมาให้ผมมาสอนมาที่สิงคโปร์เรามาทำงานตรงนี้เรามีเงินแล้วตอนนี้เรามีเงินแล้วเราคิดออกว่าอนาคตเราจะทำอะไรวางแผนเราจะทำอะไรอาทิตย์หนึ่งก็หูข้างซ้ายผมรู้สึกไม่ค่อยได้ยินผมก็ไปหาหมอแล้วหมอว่าผมเป็นมะเร็งตอนนั้นอนาคตผมดับคือในใจคิดว่าผมตายแน่นอนมะเร็งมันได้ขยายจากโพรงจมูกด้านในไปถึงต่อมน้ำเหลืองในคอครับค่ารักษาทางพิจตีทางอีวอฟจัดการจ่ายให้หมดทุกอย่างคือตามลำพังเราไม่มีเงินจ่ายแล้วก็สิงคโปร์ค่ารักษาแพงมากครับแล้วเป็นหมอเป็นโรงพยาบาลที่ดีอันดับหนึ่งของสิงคโปร์พิจตีเขาบอกยูไม่ต้องคิดมากยูขอแค่ยูมีใจสู้อย่างเดียวพี่จะดูแลทุกอย่างดูแลทั้งครอบครัวดูแลลูกเราตอนเราได้ยินมาคำนั้นเราก็สบายใจเลยก่อนนั้นก็อันดับแรกก็อยากขอบคุณพี่ชาตรีที่ดูแลการรักษาดูแลค่าใช้จ่ายรักษาพยาบาลให้ผมและให้ความหวังผมและทำให้ผมเหมือนตายแล้วเกิดใหม่
Martial arts is truly about unleashing your potential physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. And at the end of the day, really unleashing your potential as a human being. And I feel like that's what I found in both Evolve and One Championship. At One Championship, our mission has always been since day one to unleash real-life superheroes who ignite the world with hope, strength, dreams, and inspiration. Because all of our heroes have gone through these incredible life stories, conquering poverty, tragedy, adversity, to become world champions on the global stage, on the world's largest stage of martial arts. And that can inspire anybody, a street kid in Manila, a doctor to become the best doctor, a young woman in India to become a CEO. All over the world can be inspired by those stories because it's really ultimately about unleashing your greatness in life.
You see, I believe there are seeds of greatness in all of us. I don't believe that we're put on this earth just to buy a house, a car, to have a mortgage, credit card bills. No, I believe that we're all put on this earth to unleash our greatness so that we may be able to give back more than we receive, so that we can somehow leave this earth better off than how we found it.
I am Chatri Sityodtong, and I am a warrior.